Okay, here we are. We've just come in the trail to the Central Virginia Preserve. This is our first tract, known as the Sheridan Tract. If you go to our 2009 newsletter on our website, www.pitcherplant.org, and also look at our fall 2012 newsletter, there's a map, and so you'll see all the properties mentioned in the Central Virginia Preserve videos. We've done a lot of work here on this 3 acres. Basically, it's a big rectangle. It's a pine-dominated system. Past 2 years, through funding from the Community Foundation of the Community Foundation of the Rappahannock River region under the Duff McDuff Green Jr. grant, we've received 2 grants from them that have helped us to complete restoration, bog restoration here, to put in trails, bench seating, signage, and some equipment. So we've got local support here for preserving the northernmost pitcher plant bog in Virginia. And it's quite a different experience from the beds outside at Meadowview. As we walk down the trail here, we can look at a few key features. There's no less than 6, this is 3 acres, no less than 6 drainage ditches on this property. And if you look to my right, you can see 1 drainage ditch here. We're right on the edge of a swamp. And what this reflects a former era of the late 1700s, early 1800s. They called it wetland reclamation. And it's not the kind you're thinking of today. It was to reclaim wetlands as arable agricultural land. So this was to lower the water table so these, quote, rich bottomlands could be farmed for various crops by the colonists. And this place is riddled with ditches. So one of the questions we sometimes get when I take people back here is when they look at the pitcher plants that have been, we'd like to say reintroduced here, people go, but you planted these, right? Well, yeah, but realize this place was farmed. So, there's only so much a pitcher plant's going to take, and a lot of the other rare associates. I mean, you turn it into ag land, they're gone. And in fact, on the series of properties back through here that we're acquiring, we only have 2 native pitcher plants left, natural population, on the Hall tract. And that itself has ditches, but that was so poor, it was a grand sand and gravel seep, that the crops apparently didn't take very well, and the pitcher plants managed to survive. Now here it's a little more fertile, this bottomland, that if there were pitcher plants here, they simply didn't make it through. We have successfully reintroduced native purple pitcher plant, and again, we know it was farmed because in the background there is what's called a sand island, and there's a plow zone on that. And in the bog itself, we've cored that. There's a foot of what's known as legacy sediment, farming sediment runoff on top of the bog. So there's a buried organic layer here of the former bog, or former wetland. So what we've done here, our plan has been to remove most of the hardwoods, and those are chiefly red maple, sweet gum, black gum. And we had a little bit of river birch in here, and get those guys out of here. Tulip poplar. Leave the pines because they help carry the fire. We leave, obviously, the sweet bay magnolia. It's a beautiful native shrub. Understory burns. We did our first understory burn here this spring. Hand removal of shrubs in the bog by our interns this year. It's very successful. We've actually got a colony here of native pink sundew, Drosera capillaris. Now, they're not native to this particular site, but just north and west of Fredericksburg is a very localized population of white-flowered pink sundew, and we brought some plugs down here, and they're doing quite well and seeding in. One thing Ian Walker did this summer to enhance this little habitat is just some light pruning, so the dews didn't get overwhelmed. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but right in front of me, there's our native pink sundew. And we've had a lot of regeneration here, particularly after we did the pruning this summer. You can see right down in here, those were seedlings that came up after we cleared this little spot. And clearing, I mean just mowing the grasses. So, and they're all through here. So it's a very rare plant we've got successfully on the 3-acre preserve. And what we're going to do here next year, from what we've seen here, is just take a little lawnmower with a bag attachment and just mow it once or twice during the growing season, just to keep the grasses down and favor the pink sundew, because we want that to take off and get it established in a few other areas. Here we have our native rushes and sedges. That presents a nice tapestry in here. We start to see some of the pitcher plants down in the bog. We'll get some better shots here in a minute. We just had a nice rain last night, so don't want to get too wet. There's a nice specimen. Look at that guy. You can see the beautiful sphagnum moss cover in our bog. That's an indication of really good environmental quality. There's our native Caroline County pitcher plant. The natural site that these originally came from seed, is down to, or was down a couple years ago, to 8 plants, and that's headed for extinction. So having them here on a protected area, we're guaranteeing the preservation of this genotype. And notice, since we're so close to Meadowview, we have to deadhead these or cut their flower stalks, because we don't want to take the chance that we're going to get contamination from Meadowview. So if we want to get seed from these, we have to bag them and make seed ourselves. Notice here too, crayfish chimneys. So they're turning the soil over. Very important feature of what they do in the bogs. It's a nice mix of sand and organic material. Very nice. This is our native bog blackberry, Rubus hispidus. And look at these pitcher plants in the distance. Nice. One of the contributions from one of our interns last year, Richard Curzon, we do have some invasive control here because we are next to a swamp. This is one of the lowest bogs on the whole Central Virginia Preserve system. The other bogs are high up on a hill and don't have a lot of these impacts. But we see the black plastic, that's solarization to contain or kill an Asian grass called, or weed called Merdania kaisak. Marsh dewflower, and the interns Richard suggested just covering it to kill it, and that's been very successful. Hand pulling around the edges and some herbicide applications, so that's worked really nice. So we're hoping to reclaim that part of the bog next year. Maybe it will be sphagnum. I'm not sure how that one's going to shake out, what we're really going to see happen there, but we won't have that plant there, hopefully. And here's some of our nice footpaths. This is campsite number 1. For any of you that want to come visit us and like to camp, we got this is the sand island. So we've got a little corduroy road going over to the sand island, and this is where we're going to have our seating area for the students that visit. And it's just a mound of sand. It's surrounded by the bog on one side, and then in the background there is Meadow Creek Swamp. But it's just a big mound of sand, very nice and dry, excellent camping spot. We'll be mowing this again. It's been burned, so it's coming along really well. I think it's a real pretty site. You can look up into the forest. Beautiful fall day here. Absolutely beautiful. We had 50-degree temperatures last night. After a torrid summer, believe me, that's welcome. 50 degrees, love it. Here's ditch number 2, and this is our property line here, but this ditch goes to the base of a hill, and that's got a beautiful sphagnum bog, a small one, but it was drained, probably hundreds of years ago. You can see the ditch. It was like this, and this is known as Muddy Springs. It's kind of our springs here flow about 9 months out of the year, but June, July, and August, the water table drops and they're just damp, but we should have water start to flow out of here within the next month. It's just nice and quiet back here. I love walking back here. It clears your mind. You can see the Sweet Bay magnolias up in the sub-canopy here. They flavor the woods with their beautiful like ivory soap odor, in June. July we start getting the sweet pepper bush blooming. Very sweet odor. So there's all kinds of wonderful smells back here. Even right now after a rain, the ground is moist. You can just smell it. Just wonderful. Here is campsite number 2, right on the trail. And I think this will make a fine campsite, primitive campsite that is, for somebody. And we've got some really good habitat down the slope here, which we'll be stocking next year. We just did our clearing this year in April. But as you come down the slope, and this is really wet. It was pretty moist even during the summer, but look at these beautiful sphagnum patches. Here's a high quality sphagnum right there, I can tell you that. We'll have to identify it, but I can tell you that is a high quality sphagnum. There's red in the tips, nice tight heads. That is, that's indigenous here. That's going to be a really, really good spot for a pitcher plant. We use those bioindicators to tell us where to plant. You can't, sphagnum just tells you so much about the quality of your planting site. And over here, look at this. Some beautiful, nice, indigenous red sphagnum moss. I think we got a tree, unfortunately, blocking the light, but there we go. Okay. Now, I'm not going to show you all the ditches here, but our last spot, because this is, I think we've gone on long enough. We're going to look at what we call Birch Springs. There's no birch there anymore because we cut it down. But that one was it's beautiful, lovely little spring. Nice white sand. We got the rock there so you can sit and think. Just looking at that nice water flowing out. Again, you know, these springs aren't flowing right now, but they will be flowing very soon. And Birch Springs is basically an old drainage ditch. You can see the berm, I think, right in front of me. There's the remnants of the birch tree, and then there's the spring. And maybe we'll get a shot later of how that's going to work, but this channel, just a beautiful spring when it's flowing. And there's the thinking stone. Take a seat. Why don't you take a seat with me? You can just sit here and look at the woods and just enjoy nature's beauty at the Central Virginia Preserve. Thank you for watching.